Well, I'm an evolutionist, so that's 3 in a row. I am an evolutionist. And that's really because I think that social media should simply be regarded as another and alternative channel. Actually, I think it should be regarded as other alternative channels. I get slightly irritated with the use of social media as a proxy for Twitter, because the real benefit of social media is that there are so many diverse platforms and lots of different ways in which to reach different audiences with different messages and use them in different ways. So I would just like to make that particular opinion clear. I should add that my position as an evolutionist on this subject does not mean that I'm dismissive of social media. In fact, probably quite the reverse. But it does mean that I think it should be part of an integrated approach to any communications, whether you're in a crisis or not in a crisis, and should be used along with conventional media, websites, events, face-to-face communication, roundtable events, influencing, lobbying, and so on, all the different things that communicators do across the spectrum of their activity. So that answers the question, am I preparing for it specifically? Well, yes, of course I am. In the same way that I'm preparing specifically for all of those other channels and types of media and communication. So yes, you do need to prepare for it specifically, but not in isolation from or more than any other kind of channel or form of communication. So that is my answer to the first part of the essay question. And the second part was, would I give a recommendation on kind of what one thing to do if you're preparing to use social media in a crisis? I'm afraid I've cheated. I've actually got 2. So my first recommendation is not to think of social media as a broadcast channel, or at least solely as a broadcast channel. And by broadcast in this context, I mean in the sense of distributing information out. I think that a lot of people do that, and it's not the right way, particularly in a crisis. The real value of social media is that you can have a conversation. It's worth remembering the old adage about 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I think that applies on social media as much as it does in life. In other words, we should be listening at least twice as much as we speak. I've been working in this profession long enough to remember the days when we used to discuss at great length how we could solve the problem of finding out what clients or customers were really thinking. And sometimes we spent huge budgets on research and focus groups to solve that problem. So I revel in the fact that now I can just log on and find out. So we should use that, particularly if we're dealing with an issue or a crisis. The ability to hear instantly what people are saying about the situation is really valuable intelligence. My second and much briefer piece of advice is to remember that not all of your stakeholders like to receive information in the same way, similar to the way that some of us learn or absorb information. And so you cannot rely on merely 1 or 2 channels to deliver your message, especially if you're in a crisis situation. So social media is important, but it's not the only priority.